cottonwood bark. We've got our fixture per usual, which is about a 24-inch by say 7-inch 3/4 pine board, and I've got some screw holes in there. These are 1.25 drywall screws. I like the coarse threading of the drywall screws. They tend to hold on to the wood a little better than some of the thicker wood screws I've used, especially in the softer wood. So I'm just going to attach this with my drill. Then I have these two 2-inch spring clamps on either side. This one's broken, but it still does the job. Try to get it at a comfortable height so that it's right at my shoulder or so. So I'm not carving above my kind of shoulder height. I'm not kind of stressing my shoulders out more than necessary. And it's also pretty good height visually for me. So I'm not bending over to look at it too much. And that's kind of the purpose of this fixture, which is mounted to the wall. It's just made of 2x4 and 2x6 construction, really simple. 3 2x4s stacked about 24 inches wide, and then there's just a single one up here. That gives you a little angle, and that's kind of more comfortable to work at and a lot like a painter's easel. Alright, so today I'm going to do a warm-up. So what this means is that I'm only going to be spending about 1 hour working on this. Later, I'll come back and refine this, put probably a few more hours into it. So don't expect to see a finished piece in this video. This is a video of kind of the daily warm-up that I have done for a while now, kind of on and off. So I don't always do this. I'd like to do it more, and so lately I've been committing myself to this kind of time. The reason for it is really simple. When you start a work day, it's kind of difficult to build momentum. It's kind of difficult to feel like you're doing everything to the best of your ability, especially when it comes to carving. There's so many auxiliary things when it comes to owning a business and teaching and carving that come before carving. So the warm-up makes sure that I am getting my hands to the material, getting the juices flowing, the creative juices, and it just gets me a little bit more excited about the bigger projects that I have. So, and this is also a lower stakes project, so it's not as important if I mess it up. So without further ado, I'm going to set my watch timer for an hour, and we'll get started. I'm going to have to do about a half hour now, come back from lunch and do another half hour because I've got a lunch meeting. But set timer for 30 minutes. So let's start the first 30. Alright, so I'm grabbing a 1-inch slightly curved gouge, mostly flat. This is considered a number 4, which a number 4 is a, I'm not sure why I held up 2 fingers by the way, but it's a fairly shallow curved gouge. I'm going to do a lot of the roughing in with this. Now, part of the beauty of a warm-up, it doesn't have to be too mentally rigorous. It can be, but it really doesn't have to be. So I'm not going to make this too difficult for myself. It can be something I've already done before. It can be something that I want to try. Maybe I want to explore a new idea. This is a low stakes way for me to explore that new idea. So say I want to create an animal I've not created, or an expression that I haven't yet tried to capture. This is a great way of doing so. I'm going to cut in a little bit closer with the camera. Okay, a little closer shot. And the timer's been going this whole time, so we're already at 28 minutes and I've just barely roughed it in. So gotta get moving. Anyway, so I'm just kind of deciding what is it that I want to do. You know, I could go a few directions with this, although it is a pretty thin, small piece of wood, so something with kind of a good length to it or height to it would be good, so a thinner type situation. One of the things I've really been enjoying doing is stretching the features. So for so long I've tried to master the proportions of the face and learn these elements of the face through trial and error. And sometimes it's nice just to kind of stretch reality a little bit. So I might actually try and do a really elongated face in this one. See what that does. Just kind of a fun idea. So let's start by setting up the top and bottom of the head. Well, I didn't really want that to flake, but I can keep it side over here. So if I want to re-glue it back on. I like the kind of natural framing of the bark, so I'm going to try and reattach that so it has that nice silvery framing. Use my bumping mic. Alright, so I'm going to start by kind of deciding where the eyes will be. Speaking of which, if you'd like a more in-depth kind of instructional type explanation for how I'm deriving these proportions, how I approach detail, sort of the internal monologue that happens when I'm sort of teaching or setting up a face, you can hopefully external monologue when I'm teaching. Anyway, point is, if you'd like to see more about this, there's a link in the description below, and it's going to show you, and in fact I'll throw it on this video here. So you can click on the link that shows up here, and this is a link to the kind of place I spend a lot of my time, most of my time now teaching, and it's called Fundamentals of Wood Carving, and so I just post videos there once, actually I'm supposed to do it once a month, that's the minimum, but I often end up posting between 2 and sometimes even 3 times a month, various projects. Those videos are anywhere from 1 to 3 videos long, usually ranging from 30 minutes to an hour. So you're getting probably about 2 hours or so of content a month. And these are in-depth projects. So this is kind of like stuff that you probably want to mull over a few times. So there's plenty on there for you. There's over 70, I believe 77 or 78 projects for you to look at there. And of course, those are continuing to grow as the school has been in existence for almost 3 years now. So please check that out if you're interested. It's a great resource for those of you trying to learn to carve faces. So anyway, enough that. Let's get back to the carving. So I'm just establishing the nose here. And I kind of like to leave this keystone area wide. It's kind of a fun character kind of quality of female faces that you also see in male faces, that kind of wider bridge, but it makes for this really kind of whimsical, almost elfish kind of nose bridge situation. It's kind of fun. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the nose a little bit shorter here, and again, it's a warm-up carving, so we're staying loose. We're not too stressed out about shapes being anything that they're not supposed to be. It's just it's a really kind of chill situation here, so I'm not too worried. So it's a good place to kind of practice things that you've maybe done before, even. Kind of the world is your oyster here. You get to kind of decide what it is that you want to focus on your warm-up project. But I like the limitation of an hour because it doesn't take too much of your day. It's a bit of a sort of side project, and it's just a great way of getting the juices flowing, creative juices flowing. Okay. You can see how it's a very wide, very tall, very thin, the opposite of wide, very thin face. And let me see if I can move our camera back just a little bit so I'm not bumping it so much. Let's try that. Okay, better. Anyway, so some of the inspiration for these kind of elongated faces comes from one of the greatest living sculptors, a very interesting sculptor. It's hard to say the greatest living sculptor. I should say probably one of the more interesting, I shouldn't say living, he's no longer living, but contemporary, in that he was around and kicking not that long ago. And so Alberto Giacometti, or Albert Giacometti, is who's a very prolific and interesting artist who was very fluent in kind of naturalistic approach, making things look like the things that he was trying to paint. So if he was doing a portrait, it would look very much like the person he was drawing. And then as he got older, his faces started to look more and more construed and kind of I would say more kind of rough, textured, and yet they kind of maintain this sort of life and spirit, energy. It sounds kind of artsy-fartsy, but if you see his work, you'll kind of understand what I mean. It's really wild looking stuff. And so anyway, it's kind of fun. You'll notice that in his earlier works, there's a symmetry, attention to proportion, and then as he progresses, that symmetry is still there. It's getting a little rougher, but it's also kind of getting squashed this way. So I love that about Giacometti. It's just a really neat, it's just a fantastic kind of style that he developed through this elongation, and you see a lot of people kind of emulating it now. And so yeah, it is kind of the inspiration for some of these elongated heads that I've done for various projects on the school, and also on YouTube. I've done some. Of course, the school's focus is not this sort of elongated style. It's naturalism or realism, so making something that looks like reality is the focus of the school, because in my opinion, if you look at the trajectory of many great artists, you look at Picasso, they start with a photorealistic kind of this amazing artistic achievement. They learn the rules of proportion, symmetry, of design, and then they kind of learn those rules so that they can forget them and they can start to create, and it just becomes internal, those rules, and so they're able to let those rules inform what they make, but they're kind of moving past them, and that's kind of what's so fun about art, is when you learn the rules, you can kind of break them. And so yeah, I think the value of the school is that it shows you the rules so that you can go ahead and try your own things, experiment, and that's what I'm hoping to encourage with the online carving school and also these videos here. So that's that. Enough talking. Let's get to carving. Now I'm using a gouge. This is a number 10 gouge. It's very curved, just establishing some more fine detail. Okay, now the reason that I love using bark for these warm-ups, this is of course tree bark from a cottonwood tree, is that it's, as you can see, it's very soft, it's easy to work. It's not going to take as much time to create something that you're proud of. Other woods that would work for this, basswood would be excellent, butternut would be excellent. They're all very soft woods that you could work within a fairly short period of time and get a pretty nice result. So I choose cottonwood because it's extraordinarily soft, it's pretty even, and I have a bunch of it, and so I use it. But don't feel like you have to have this particular type of wood to do this type of carving. You might be pushing a little harder than I am on your butternut or your basswood, but just realize that your detail is going to be that much better. Excuse me. Basswood and butternut and woods that are harder than cottonwood bark are going to do a better job of holding detail, and therefore are going to be kind of easier to kind of finish at the end there. So it pays off to stick with a little bit of a harder wood. I am very used to this kind of flakiness that we get from bark, but it's definitely a struggle for some beginners to get used to it. So going forward, I plan on using a lot more butternut, basswood, cottonwood wood, and not maybe birch, etc., hardwoods, as opposed to the bark, since it is not always easy for people to come by, and it's also a really soft wood, and sometimes that can work against people who are starting out. Let's see if I can get a little closer. Alright, we've got about 17 minutes on the clock, and so we're making progress. I'm going to make his nose very bulbous and have very minimally kind of visible nostril flares. Kind of a style of nose that I don't carve as often. At least I don't think I do. Okay, so coming around here. That's the gouge. Again, this is another curvy gouge, as I was talking about with the smaller 10. This is a larger curvy gouge 9. Again, that just means it has more curve to it. So you can see that here. Alright, so these faces kind of develop quickly because there's not as much to them. So there's not a whole lot here. To carve, it's thin, it's small, and there's just kind of one element. So you can kind of block these in more quickly, and these kind of single figure carvings are great for warm-ups because you won't feel super frustrated at the end of them as though you kind of wasted your time or you didn't get anything reasonable done. Kind of the point of a warm-up is to get some sort of immediate satisfaction from your work and get yourself some momentum. At least that's how I think of it. So just establishing the forehead. This is a knife. You could very easily use a knife, a skew for this, or a gouge to come in and make this curve. This is called a skewed knife because the sharp side is actually kind of bent backwards. And it almost emulates a skew, which is a knife that looks like this. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put this on pause because, like I mentioned, I've got a lunch break. But you won't really experience much of a pause because I'll be right back. The only thing that might change is the sunlight. It might be a little darker or brighter. Alright, see you guys. Just a second. Okay, and we're back from lunch. And we've got 41 minutes and 54 seconds on the clock. I'm counting down, so kind of back to our little project here. And so it's a little later in the day and it's less of a warm-up now, and because I got loads of other little things going on, it ended up being a main project for the day in addition to the other ones. So that's okay, sometimes how it goes. Alright, so I'm just shaping the nostrils with this is called a veiner. This is a curved tool, very small. This is like a 3mm veiner. You can see I'm trying to make these nostrils nice and tall because it is elongated. Everything about this character is elongated. So, what's that? Looks like my wife is calling me. She will have to wait. She's gonna have to wait. Alright. Anyway. There we go. I'll take a look at this from the side. And yeah, it looks a little flat from the side. I'll show you. It's not very dimensional, so it's always good to check from the side. Make adjustments that way. And that's okay if it's, you know, something that's a little out of the ordinary. Being that it's exaggerated, it's almost surreal anyway. It doesn't have to be perfectly within the normal depths of a carving. But I mean, Rick Harney is a great example of an artist who makes these incredible, these amazing portraits. And they're just like 3/4 of an inch thick. And you look at them and you're thinking to yourself, this has got to be, you know, I don't know, 7 or 8 inches thick. And then he turns it on its side. I mean, it's thinner than this piece of wood. So it's incredible what you know, what people can do with just a little bit of material. So that's a good experiment as well, to try and see how much depth you can create without actually having any depth. That's a really fun experiment to do. Okay. I'm just shaping the forehead. There's a lot happening up there, so I'm trying to get things muscularly accurate. I think I might burn this one. No, not like throw it in a fireplace, if that's what you're thinking. Thinking of putting this in a in front of a torch, torching it. You get this really neat kind of style of finishing that was developed by the Japanese. It's called sugiban, and sugiban is a way of finishing a wooden surface so that it really doesn't need any clear coat on it, and it's just as simple as burning a surface and then wire brushing it. But one of the things I like to do is use the wood finish to kind of work in and fill the areas that don't get burned by the torch. So maybe I'll give that a shot in just a little bit. Try to leave myself an extra few minutes. And I guess if I do that, I am breaking my rule. Well, I'm not breaking my rule, but I was telling you earlier that I wouldn't finish it for sure, and I might be finishing it. So that's cool. That's cool. If I can finish it, that'd be great. That's the goal. Look at it from the side now and see how it's looking. Better. I didn't want to flake that off. So here again is a lesson in just kind of going with the flow and working with the wood. So if the wood flakes in such a way, really you're collaborating with the wood. And what I mean is there's character flaws in each piece of wood. There's things that flake off. There's kind of inherent qualities that a piece of wood has based on its environment, its particular kind of inherited traits, and so that is what causes the wood to behave in the way that it does. And so when met with my will, it has sort of its own things to say, so it'll flake off when I don't expect it to. And so my ability to collaborate with the wood is important. So Something flakes off, keep going, I don't give up, I don't get discouraged, I can change the design a little bit. Yes, it does pose an issue when you're carving a portrait, and the thing has to be exactly like a person, and then something important flakes off, and the whole character changes. But that's not why we're not in the business of photorealism. It'd be a painstaking and unsatisfying kind of endeavor in many ways. An interesting challenge at times, but wouldn't be the main mode of work that I'd want to do. I've done it before. Attempted before, I should say, and it's a lot of work. It's really hard. Okay. Alright, knife is starting to get dull. There's a lot of dirt and sand deposited in the surface of the wood. You can see it's already starting to leave little white streaks behind, and that is a little bit of an issue. That's okay though. That's okay though. Okay. I'm just kind of fine-tuning everything now. I'll come at it from the side, see what I like, what I don't like. Alright, then sorry I'm not really saying all that much. Just kind of in the moment here. thinking about people that I've run into over the years and kind of the impressions that carvings have made on people, and thinking about how this is taking a bit of an African kind of influence, and just kind of what that's been like carving African people, and there aren't a lot of people kind of representing African people necessarily in carvings, from what I've been told. Who knows if that's everyone's experience, but I can see that. You don't see it as often. You see a lot more kind of Caucasian European men represented in carvings than we do minorities, Asian in general. And so I'm just learning how to communicate better the way that faces are, not just the way the carving cliches are. There are a lot of carving cliches that I've stuck to for a long time, you know, just doing the same stuff. And there's mistakes in that, for sure. There's so many amazing faces out there to look to and to try and carve. And so I have so much fun seeing people's faces. I do. My wife says, you love looking at people. And it's true. I'll be driving on the road and I'll see a beautiful face, and I'll just be out like looking, you know, I'm just a creepy guy, right? Just looking at their face, going, wow, that's a wonderful nose. Look at that nose. Oh, I want to carve it. You know, or I'll just be looking at some dude, and I'll be like, that is a really interesting structure that guy's got to his face. Very angular, you know, very aggressive looking, you know, or just the countenance of the person. I'm not always thinking about the way they look, thinking about, wonder what they faced that day, you know, wonder what they did, you know, wonder what their life is like, wonder who they are. And I think about people all the time, and sort of I'm always trying to understand people better and their motivations, and I think underlying everything I do is trying to understand people better, because they're a total mystery to me, you know. Maybe it would help if I wasn't a total mystery unto myself as well, right? Like, who knows what the heck's going on in my head half the time? I don't even know. Probably not a whole lot, really. It's just, but well, I take it back. I've got plenty of wonderful things going through my head. I'm a genius. Anyway, I've been just interested in people my whole life, and so that's probably a big influence on the work too. People ask why the faces, you know, why the faces? It's like, man, it's the epicenter of emotion, right? It's a place where emotions happen. The face. It's such an interesting place, and you can just see so much in a person's face. You can see love in a person's eyes, you know. You can see peace in a resting face. You can see an anxious sleeping. See a person who's thinking about something that's anxious. You know, all this stuff is carried in the face. So to me, it's just the most interesting. It's the most interesting kind of part of the body is definitely the face. $25 minutes. 25 minutes. So a problem I could make is, or a problem I could have is just overworking an area a little bit too much, and staying loose is really hard sometimes. Like, people stay loose. You know, they're talking about art, anything in general, really. They're just saying, don't worry too much. Just trust your intuition, you know, and learn from your past mistakes. It's a little bit of a Zen thing, you know, kind of being in harmony with the situation, not getting angry when things go wrong, acknowledging that when things go wrong, it just means you need to improve and try something different. So that's something that helps a lot too, is when you're carving, to not to get too emotionally attached to the outcome. It's hard to do. It's easier said than done. If you can just kind of enjoy the process of what you're doing, and you know, you will make mistakes. I mean, they're just infinite mistakes. You know, those of you who portrait sculptors out there watching this, I mean, there's infinite mistakes I'm sure I'm making, but hopefully I'm growing through those mistakes. You know, maybe I'm not, but this is what it is. You know, it's just what it is right now, and I can make a lot of observations about this piece, but the time trial is really just to see what you got up there. You know, no references really. Sometimes I'll have a reference, but in this case today I don't, and just to see what's going on, what I got up in the noggin, right? Not necessarily what you know, what's anatomically perfect, because I could pull up some reference photos and I could definitely make this a little bit more accurate for sure, even within the hour time frame. But I'd probably take away from the finish of it. You know, I would probably neglect another part because I only have an hour here. That's the point of this, is just to see what you got, warm up into the day. Even though it's kind of late in the day now, it's still just really satisfying. I mean, you could finish the day out not having done anything, you know, that feels substantial. As a carver, sometimes all you can get done is one of these warm-up carvings. You know, for me, that's often the case. You know, I get so busy with auxiliary projects. It's nice to just have something to show for the day of being in the shop. So I'll definitely include this in my daily life more than I have. Something worth doing. Oh, sorry, my autofocus was on. I apologize about the jumping. Hopefully you're able to put up with it. I know my hand was probably getting in focus. Now it'll just stay on the carving. I guess I'm not a cinematographer. I'm well aware of that based on people's comments on the videos in the past. I don't claim to be a cinematographer. I'm learning things and I'm trying to get better, but you know, my brain is focused on the carving, you know, so I'll often forget some of the important things that I have to do to make the videos really great. So I guess it's kind of part of the thing of just doing it a ton, right? It just becomes instinctual. And once you find the focus on the camera, hit manual, right? Like don't leave it on auto, because it's going to hunt around for whatever object is closest to it. But if you don't, it's alright. If you can't stand watching it, then you wouldn't have made it this far. You're already gone. Always seeing you in the comments. Sometimes when I'm carving, I like to have the camera on because I can look at the picture in the little lens, you know, in the little screen, and in the back end it'll tell me like a little bit, it'll show me the thing in a different way, you know. So just kind of look at it through that sometimes, and I'll go, wow, that looks really bad. That nose needs to change, or it's way out of proportion. Stepping back does the same thing a lot of times. So just take a step back from a carving, look at it from a distance, and see what I can do to change it. That really helps too. I recommend that as well. I'm not sure how much time we have left here. 20 minutes? Not a ton of time, but hopefully enough to get the finish on it. I'm gonna have to stop carving pretty soon and start thinking about the torch and the finish and all that fun stuff. But either way, this was, I'd say this was a successful little warm-up. Definitely better than the last couple where I wasn't able to quite get very much done, so that's good. I'm gonna cut the eyes in now. I could have used a V-tool for that. I'm just stuck on the knife. Sometimes I get stuck on one tool. I'll just use it and use it and use it. And just using it in the wrong way, in the improper way. And when I could really easily just grab a different tool that would just make the whole thing better. But you know, a lot of times you're just in the zone, and that's a good thing for the most part, as long as you're not spending way more time than necessary with a tool that doesn't really do the right job. So that's where I make the change. Oh, sorry, just want to make sure the camera doesn't continue to move. Alright, not going to age this guy too much. I could go in here and really put a bunch of wrinkles and lines, but I'm not going to try and age him so much as I would, you know, kind of these old gnarled guys I'm doing, and whatever the wood spirit cliche thing that I've done for so long. Those are so fun though, it's hard to avoid. Alright, cool, so he's starting to shape up, right? And I'm just trying to take a step back and think about what are some of the things that need to happen. And I could use a little bit of sandpaper on him. That would really help set him apart. I've only got probably about 15. Oh, excuse my kicks. I only got like 17 minutes. 12 seconds. All right. I say as I'm looking at the phone. Cool. You know, you can do a pretty good job in with an hour of time if you're really focused, but you know, there's a lot of stuff that I would like to change. You know, there's some things I would like to refine and make better and something like this, but I really want to show you the Sugibon, so I can always make changes after the Sugibon. But I know that I'll probably end up finishing this off camera, you know, in about a month or 2 or 3. You know, who knows, when I have a show coming up, or I just have the free time to work on it. And I won't probably be filming it, right? So I figure try to get the finishing stages in, or at least simulate what I might do to it. Worst comes to worst, burn it now and come back in and finish it later. Do lots of depth in the inside corner of the eye. And you notice things that are like wrong, like asymmetries with the face. Like I can just stare at this and see that one eye is a little bit like higher than the other, and I mean, and I could, you know, I could fix it to some extent, but you know, it's like in reality you could always just, you know, tell yourself that, which is true, that a lot of people's eyes are uneven, right? Like most people have one eye that's a little higher than the other. I was just talking to a friend of mine about that the other day. He was saying he was really bummed about this carving, that he had like one cheek way higher than the other, or like a little bit higher, not even really way higher, just like very subtly higher. And he was telling me that he can't figure out how to fix it. And I was like, dude, this isn't, you know, first of all, he did an amazing job on this carving, and I was like, you have to appreciate that. You did a great job with this. And then, you know, secondly, it's like, man, everyone's face has asymmetry. Everyone's face has problems. And so you just have to sometimes just put up with it, you know, leave it in there. Other times you can fix it. the one line in there. I don't even like that line. Alright, we got about 12 minutes, so it's really close to being the time where I have to burn this thing. If I'm gonna burn it, I'm gonna burn it. It's a really flat kind of profile. It's not really that dimensional, but it's kind of just the way it is. That's okay. It's good. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this one. I like the sharper angles and these kind of thinner faces. They really kind of lend well to those pieces. The piece of wood really utilizes the whole piece of wood, and I love that. It's a very satisfying feeling to get the whole thing kind of in the piece, you know. So that's cool. Just gonna take a little bit out of that side corner. Alright, may have gotten a little carried away on this side. I have to undo that a little bit. Okay, touch of sandpaper, just a little 220, and then I really got to burn this puppy. Man, I don't want to do a lot in terms of sanding. I kind of like the roughness on him, so I'm just gonna like really kind of gently blend here and there. And you know, the actual what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the burning process itself will also kind of lend to smoothing it out a bit. I'm not going to worry too much about, you know, ruining it from, or doing too much to sand it, I guess. Yeah, and so I made this mistake of going in too deep on the left side, you know, his right side. So now I have to go in and do the same thing to this side. Create that shadow. I didn't want to have to do that, if I'm being honest. I wanted to leave that cut a little bit more shallow. But there's a lesson in there. If you make a mistake on one side, you can add it to the other side and it almost justifies it. So symmetry does justify some mistakes. So lines to be too sharp, so I'll soften the lips a little. Okay, well, I don't want to sand it anymore. Like that. And I'm going to crack a window so that when I start burning this, I'm not filling the room with smoke, breathing that in. It's not good for you. So, alright, so we got my torch. It's actually good to have a cup with water nearby. And thankfully, I already kind of have that right here, but I had it kind of far away, so I'm gonna bring it closer. Maybe just getting some char on there, not going too crazy. Maintain some distance, don't do it too quickly because otherwise we'll have problems with losing too much of the detail. Alright, that's good, just a tiny bit more here and there. Perfect, alright. Take a tiny bit of water, make sure it's not on fire as we speak. Okay. And we got 6 minutes on the clock. I'm going to grab some clear coat here, some polyurethane. And kind of work it into the wood, make kind of a slurry. A slurry of sorts to blend in this kind of highlight that you're seeing here in the cracks coming from where the finish did not get into kind of harder to reach areas. So. I'm going to get the camera just a couple steps back here so I'm not getting, you know, getting too, I'm not overspraying onto the camera. That wouldn't be ideal. Okay. I'm not too worried about getting a little bit of excess on here. I'll have a towel near me so I can take off the excess, but just going to start to build that slurry. I can get a little bit more on there. Work that in the cracks. Right? Okay, there might be an area or two that the finish didn't get into. And I'm sure it's not good for you what I'm about to do. But I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more char out of this. Maybe a tiny bit more. It's possible that it doesn't need it. It's also very possible that it doesn't need it. Closer. I'm going to turn an extra light on here so you can see. Alright. You don't want to overbrush it because it'll start pulling the hairs off of your brush. If it's a cheap brush like the one I have. Alright, let's give it a shot. Let's do a little bit more burning on it. Starting to dry just quickly, doesn't it? Oh, excuse me. Just as I suspected, it really probably isn't the safest thing in the world. Probably not good to breathe in either. But there's that. Just take a little bit of water, put it out. I don't want it to be on fire here. Get my other brush I was using for the finish. This is a water-based polyurethane, for those of you who are asking. And we've got 2 minutes left. Alright, so we're getting really heavy on that. Mixing up a slurry. There we go. Now we're actually kind of working into those cracks. Beautiful. And you know, the brush is kind of acting to do the Sugiban, where it's kind of taking away some of the grain. Soft grain. So we don't have to worry about that, but that'll dry. And we'll see how that looks. We'll take it outside. And we finished with a couple minutes to spare, so that's good. I'm going to wire brush it because I think it's a little bit of an uneven tone. You can see it's kind of shiny in some spots and really brilliant in others. So I'm hoping that if I just take my wire brush, we're just trying stuff. It really doesn't. It's just art, right? It's not important. So. Looks like we got a little carried away with the torch because we lost a little bit of detail in the lips, which is a little bit of a bummer, but that's okay. You live and you learn, right? So I don't know if this brush is doing it or not. It looks like it took quite a bit of material up here off, which was not the goal, but probably because that finish is already hardened. I'm just messing with stuff, you know, at this point. Kind of neat how it looks kind of worn out in spots. Almost looks like it's getting beat up. I don't hate that. Some people will. Kind of interesting. I'm not one to be too artsy-fartsy, but I like the fact that it's kind of got the scratches on it. In a weird way. It tells a story. Thanks again for watching, guys. If you'd like to learn more about how to do this, again, the upper left-hand corner here is a link to the online school that I started, which is designed to show you how to carve realistic faces in wood. And so this is all we do in this school, stuff like this, faces in wood. So check that out. We have male, female, of course, various types of materials on there. A lot of cottonwood bark, some basswood, butternut, cedar, etc. So check that out. Thanks again. I really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one.